Hi. Hi, welcome, Rikki. Can you
Hi,
pronounce your last name? Because I was going to say Horvatic.
Horvatic. Yeah.
Horvatic. Welcome, Rikki Horvatic, to my Creative Journey series. This is number 11, interview number 11.
Okay.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, I'm really happy to have you here today. We're going to speak not for a full hour, but just because you answered all the questions and you provided some artwork. But anyway, just to kind of get to know you and how creativity has helped you and to learn more about maybe the projects you're working on, that kind of
Yeah,
thing. So thanks so much.
absolutely. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, do you want to maybe kind of like how in your interview you talk about as when you were younger as a child pretty much, and that you were identified as a gifted student and that you were interested in writing stories.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in how the stories kind of evolved into more of the creative making of things.
I was one of those kids. I feel like all the kids who grew up like in the 90s who were labeled as a gifted kid feel like it was a curse. It felt like a curse,
Really?
honestly. Yeah, because you were told about all this potential you have and you had to figure out what it is that you want to do. And then you had to like work so hard for that goal. And so I spent a lot of time talking about being a writer and how I was going to be a writer and how I was going to write stories. I never wrote stories. I spent a long time going into college. I never once took a creative writing class. Um, I didn't pursue anything that had to do with my creative passions because I was told that's not how you make money. So I went into originally study journalism, which I was good at, but it wasn't a very high paying job. And also, it was 2008. The recession was about to happen. Social media was taking off. It was a very uncertain time to be trying to figure out what you want to do with your life. And then that's when the drinking really became a problem for me. And I guess just that, like, realizing that there's had been like an entire lifetime, almost 20 years of my life where I had been living and not doing the things I said I wanted to do. And I didn't know how to make myself do them, which sounds silly, but it, it was such a big blockage for me to like think that I had to turn all of this stuff into a lucrative career, and it stopped me from making anything until I was almost 31, I
Oh,
think.
interesting. So that time was you were in your 20s.
Yeah, I was 19 when
Okay.
at 2008 when I was like working at my campus newspaper and I was going to school, and it was just becoming very clear that journalism was not going to look the way that it had looked for a long time.
Sure.
Um, and I was getting a degree, but I wasn't very good at like the actual school part. And I was really good at the partying part. And then I ended up leaving abruptly and coming home and just for almost 10 years just partied and
Sure.
drank and didn't know how to deal with life. And I feel like I mentioned like the idea of being a gifted kid is almost like a curse because like you work so hard and you go to college, and that's supposed to be like the moment that you shine and that things start to fall in place, and like the loss of identity that happens when none of that comes to fruition is really jarring.
Sure. Sure. So 2017,
Mm-hmm.
you make this decision
Yeah.
that this is not, you're going to be what maybe take lead us into that then. What was the, there was this thing where you're like, this is not how my
Well,
life is gonna go.
so I like to tell that my husband and my kids definitely saved my life. I was heading down a very dark path, and
Mhm.
my husband gave me an ultimatum and was like, "We can do this. I love you. We can do this, but I can't do this when you are like this."
Sure.
I had been diagnosed with bipolar. I was heavily medicated. and I was still drinking,
Yeah,
and it was a problem.
sure.
So everything happened very quickly when I decided to get sober. Um, it just like boom, 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 like married, baby, moved out of state, another baby, like one right after the other. And my daughter, our second child, was born right when the pandemic happened. I was on bed rest with her, and that is when I decided. I think it was actually my husband. I had spent so much time just like watching TV and not having anything to do and being home with the baby, and I had left my job, and he's like, "Why don't you get a hobby? Like why don't you do something?" And so I started crocheting and taught myself that while I was on bed rest, and that kind of like that was like the portal back into creativity for me.
Sure, sure. And I love, I mean, I I haven't done much crocheting. I was doing a knitting stint for a while there, but your sweaters and your dresses are pretty fantastic. For and there's a picture of one on your profile image in the blog. But um, so making the transition from doing that to um, like what brought you to Substack? And when you came to Substack, were you in this collage mode already, or kind of maybe if you could share with us what happened, or how that process kind of more of the expressive arts or the creative part of collaging or art making came to be for you from collage or from because crochet is like it's a beautiful craft and it's more and people are always like arts and crafts. Okay, I put them all into one,
Right.
um, where you're expressing yourself and you're using your hands to create. Um, so
I think that crochet like gave me the permission almost. It like reminded me that I was capable of doing things.
sure,
That's something I say a lot is like you can just do things. Like especially with the
I love that.
resources we have now.
Yeah,
Like when I was a kid, I didn't have YouTube. That's how I taught myself how to crochet. Like couldn't find a video and watch someone go through each stitch and like mimic it. I had books and like that's the kind of stuff I couldn't figure out as a kid. And so like the resources we have now, that's like one of the best uses of the internet in my opinion is like you can just do things. You can figure things out. I have always been a notebook collector and an off and on journaler, and I started losing steam. I stopped selling crochet items in 2021, and I was just kind of like not getting bored, but just kind of like wanting to push myself outside of that comfort zone. And I was getting really into spirituality at the time. And so I was journaling more. And I started playing with it was collaging. It was more of like a junk journal with like scrapbook paper and stickers and things like that. And it slowly as I became more initiated kind of into the community of art journalers on Instagram, I started trying more and more things and gravitating towards making art, gravitating towards collage, and becoming more confident in my skills as I showed up every single day. Because that's one of my rules. Like I have to create something every day. And it can be easy, it can be messy. Something has to be done.
yeah, yeah. I'm with you on that. I think it's really important to stay connected to that piece of yourself. It's like a discipline, but it's really there to serve you. It's not, yes, you can make stuff with it, but even if you make something that's, super ugly or you're just gonna rip up and maybe using something else, just I think sitting down and the act of using your hands and allowing
Hmm.
either something to come through intuitively or maybe you have a plan for it. I don't think that matters. I think just that
Yeah.
creative practice.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I don't have I have a lot more discipline now, but a lot of this has really stemmed from my curiosity and I have ADHD. I found that out around the same time I started journaling. Um and it was like,
How do you find
oh, this
something like
is
that out? You were just having difficulty focusing? Like how does,
um well, focusing had always been an issue for me, but I'm what is called inattentive type. So I'm more like daydreamy in my head. The hyperactivity isn't visible because it's all in my mind.
Hmm.
Um, and so my family, a couple members of my family were diagnosed with ADHD, and
Gotcha.
then a lot of people started talking about it on the internet, and things started kind of falling into place. And so I went and I talked to my doctor about it, and they said it was a distinct possibility. And so we tried, I am medicated for it, but because of my issues with addiction, I chose to stay like in a very low dose, like mellow medicine for it.
Gotcha.
And it has
Gotcha.
helped tremendously. Like it has completely, especially just like it's the day-to-day minutia of like certain things, like cleaning up my desk and dumping out the paint water and doing the dishes when there's things that you just don't want to do
Yeah.
that have to get done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Well,
it just but the ADHD, it like I have a lot of interest. You probably have noticed that if
yeah.
you've looked at my work, there's
Yeah.
a lot of different things going on because I allow myself to follow what is interesting to me in that moment instead of forcing myself to niche down and focus on one thing, which I think is what social media tries to get us to do.
Sure. Sure. Put hashtags on it.
Yeah.
And that defines you as you and,
Yeah.
puts you into, like you said, these little corners and nice. Yeah. I'm really, what brought you to Substack?
I was on WordPress before, and I'm actually straddling both WordPress and Substack now. WordPress is now more of my website blog, and Substack is more social media newsletter.
Gotcha.
Because when I first started on Substack, they had not introduced things like notes yet, and like the community building aspect wasn't as present
Sure.
there. Um, it was just a publishing platform. And a lot of people seem to be gravitating towards it. So it made sense. Um, I have the little outlet over on WordPress. It's my own personal site, so that I can write every day without feeling like I'm inundating people with emails, basically.
Sure. 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 Yeah. I know that issue came up too when I first started Substack about a year ago. I think it was last November, and making that transition, which is just like more of a logistical thing, but from notes to the posts, and I was like, oh gosh. And then I was like I always say I was like Marsha Brady, freshman year of high school, where she's like, I want to sign up for this, and I want to sign up for that, and I want to sign up for this, and then all of a sudden you've got like your inbox has got like 40 emails, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's no way I can read all of these in one day. So let me go back to following people versus. So I think that's a great idea where you can have that other platform. And I try to do that with the notes section on Substack, right? Where I can just post kind of little things that I'm working on in notes without like, hello, here's another inbox from Lori Mays. It's like,
I
like,
think his
okay.
name, are you familiar with Austin Kleon?
No.
He's on Substack, but he wrote the books. I know he has a handful of books about creativity, but Steal Like an Artist.
Oh, I do know him. I knew that. I do know. I
Yeah.
knew that. I know that book. Yeah.
He has
Yeah.
had a blog, like website blog running for a long time.
Huh.
And then he shares a newsletter through Substack. And so I saw that model and I was kind of like, that makes sense because, and this is something that a lot of creative folks have talked about recently, especially with like all of the issues that go on with social media, especially lately. And is this idea that you don't want all of your content like in one place and that you don't want to be beholden to a certain app or a certain company,
Yeah.
which is definitely like on Instagram. I actually very hastily decided I was addicted to Instagram one day and deleted my account, didn't deactivate, deleted my account with almost 5,000 followers
Yep.
that I had worked to build up for a really long time.
Yeah.
Um, regret that a little bit now.
Sure. Sure.
But
Sure.
when I came back, I felt like I could come back and there was like this relief almost of like now I don't feel like all of the people who were here because it started off as a crochet account and then it morphed again and again and again and again. And I kept getting in my head about it. And so I just deleted it one
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. I know your pain because we're right around 2020. I was getting fed up with a lot of things. And um, so I did the same thing. Like I had a huge YouTube. I kept the YouTube, but I had like, Facebook had been filled building. I had same thing, Instagram, and like, screw all these. I'm out of here. And dumb business decision on one way because you just cut out, like you said, now you just left those 5,000 people. And then I begrudgingly came back to both of them. And more because a year ago we were moving and I had to sell stuff. So I was like going to sell stuff on Facebook Marketplace. And then I'm like, oh, well,
Right.
here's all my high school friends. It's a really nice way to see what they're doing I'm from a small town in Northern Illinois. And so I was like, well, I like it for that reason. And then I just kind of stayed. But it's funny, like same thing where my Instagram's like 300 people. But now I feel they're like people who are
Right.
interested in what I'm doing at this point in my life. Okay, so what if it's not 5,000 people? But
Yeah.
it is
I
what it
feel like
is.
it,
It's like a spring cleaning.
yeah, it definitely like energetically like cleaned out the cobwebs, and not to refer to like people or like Instagram users that way, but I do know there was a lot of people that were like, the numbers aren't everything, and I know there was a lot of
True.
people that were not there engaging with it, and the people who were engaging with my work are back to following my new account now. So
Good.
like I think that quality over quantity
Yes, ma'am.
does speak to something, because there is this thing when it comes to like art and creativity and business and the internet, this idea of like, how can you get people to invest money in what you're doing? Um, which is something I've agonized over, and have just had to step away from it for a minute, because, and I'm
Yeah.
very privileged to be able to do that. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I don't have
Sure.
to make money from it.
Yeah.
Um, but I can't imagine the amount of pressure that comes from having to rely on that.
Yeah. And then you're forced to create your content, and then you constantly have to create
Yeah.
content. And it becomes this, what are we posting for? I'm the same boat where um my husband is semi-retired, and so but my work has gone up like this, where I've had really busy art making, like commercially making paintings, and then I'm kind of going, and I was having some surgery last year, so I went to more of like, well, what can I do at my desk? Um, but it's an interesting thing, especially too if you've actually sold your work, but then you also it's kind of this thing that finding balance is I think everyday challenge, because I can also get really goo-goo on Substack and like scroll there. Now I'm reading, and it's almost like I'm at a library where people say it's like I'm being in a coffee shop or I'm going to the library, and it's like I'm reading about this right now, and now I'm reading about intuitives, and now I'm reading about journaling, and now I'm looking at somebody's photography for the day, and it is so much more refreshing
Yeah.
than the other multitude of pages. Um, what Without like going on, so could you talk a little bit about I know that you're working on the Artist Way right now, um, and if you want to, I'm curious about the Star Moth Press and where that name, if what significance versus being Rikki's Substack or something like that.
Well, number one, I've never been a huge fan of the name Ricky. That was a choice of my parents that I wasn't super thrilled with. And I have toyed around with changing my name, but I wanted to make something. I wanted my presence on the internet to be like more of like I don't want to say conglomerate, but like a consolidation of like all of these things that I do. I'm the artist and I'm the writer and I'm the creator, but like all of these works culminate, and that's Star Moth Press.
Gotcha.
Um, the zine making is really what got it started, and me using that more consistently, because I was putting out actual like self-published hand sewn books.
Yeah,
But the star moth part actually came from two really vivid intuitive dreams that I had, that I kind of pushed together and liked the sound of.
yeah,
That was it. It was like the first time that I had, I think it was the first time that I had dreams in a long time that weren't about relapsing and starting to drink again.
sure,
So
sure.
those were big.
That's
That was a big moment for me.
sure. Something that's precious,
Hmm.
important. Um, and you're doing the artist way now, which I've known
Hmm.
a lot of people go through that. Is this the second time you've done this?
No,
This is
I
okay.
took 2 years to get started doing it. I took 2 years to build up my capacity for my habit of writing every day. And I also didn't have the freedom to go do artist dates every week.
Sure.
And it felt like an important tool to the program. And so I waited until my kids were both in school, which they just started
Oh,
last month.
okay. Well, good. No. And they're
Yeah.
both in full time?
Yep, full days.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
it's a transition period. I just wrote about that right before I hopped on this call
Okay.
actually, because it's very different.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand we have boys that are now in their 20s, but that moment when you're you're doing everything for everybody and your days are filled with that. And then all of a sudden now you take them to school or whoever takes them to school. And then it's like there's this chunk of time during the
Mhm.
day. And for some people that can be a wonderful thing and they've got lots of freedom. Some people can be a real challenge. And so I do understand that. Um, so you took a little bit of time to actually dedicate to doing this. I what is what is the kind of your favorite thing about the artist way, and why would you, besides you wanted to have time to dedicate to use it, if you want to talk a little bit about what drew
I
you to it and
Well, it's kind of having a moment on the internet right now. I do know that. I think it's there's an artist named Dochi that did the artist way publicly on the internet, and then now has like won awards and has performed on several TV shows and has albums and totally blew up. I don't think that I could handle blowing up. That's not really the goal, but it seemed like in that journey there was like a real clearing out of internal blockages that one maybe couldn't handle getting rid of on their own. And so
sure,
that's kind of what I'm hoping will come out of it. I know that there's still a lot of old baggage there, specifically when it comes to writing. I'm trying to, that's like ultimately my goal is to get back to creative writing and trying to write stories. I've got, I write reflective essays and things like that, and I make art and collage, and I paint and I draw and I make comics. Um, and there is still a blockage with the writing, but it's still something I feel myself pulled to do.
yeah. Okay, well I'm gonna keep watching to see how you is it Julia Cameron,
Yeah.
they wrote the book. Yeah, a friend of mine from Denver, and she's also an artist, and her name's Marcella, and she was doing that. I don't know if she was doing it like once a year, but she also was like posting every day what her results were from doing that. And um, I remember getting that book like right out of art therapy school. So that this would have been before you were, well, it was a long time ago. We'll just say that. But I do think it's a great tool. It's like a great coaching. It's like a great coach to have as far as what a book can provide. And like you said, clearing out old stuff and keeping you on track and having a book as a mentor to hold you accountable to this is what we're doing today. This is what we're doing today. In
Yeah.
your
It,
morning pages.
I was doing lives on TikTok where I was writing my morning pages as a way to invite people for like co-working almost,
Hmm.
because it can be intimidating to do that kind of practice, especially every day, especially in the morning.
Sure.
But I don't think I did it right because people were like, "Why are you writing upside down?" I think I had the camera set up funny.
Oops. Oh, well,
But
it's a new way for you to learn how to read.
yeah, it's also just a part of like I'm just trying to get more comfortable like talking this way and being on camera, because that's kind of like the way that things get shared now.
Sure.
The world changes and media changes, and
Yeah.
I think we all have to adapt
Yeah.
accordingly.
Yeah. It's just changed so much in 10 years alone. It's going crazy. Um, well, is there any project that because we're going a little bit over time now, but that's okay. Um, I want to be respectful of your time. Are there certain projects that you're working on right now that you want to share with people, or a painting
So
or,
currently I'm not, I try to do like a collage or a painting or like an art journal spread every day. And I usually share that in Substack notes. And I've been writing my contemplative comics where I'm not a great drawer, but I'm still just trying to tell stories with it. And then I just started this week doing on my WordPress site, which is starmothpress.com. It just I'm pulling a tarot card every week and I'm spending the whole week reflecting on that card and seeing what shows up in my life and like journaling about it and then writing about it on the blog. And then I'm going to do, hopefully next week, cross my fingers, release a podcast episode going over the whole week. And
wow,
then I'm going to go through the whole deck of cards that way.
wow, that's a big project.
I hope to do like artwork that goes along with the card. Like today, post that I just shared was because I'm doing the strength card this week. Um, I almost hit a great blue heron driving my kids to soccer last night,
Oh my gosh.
which was like,
Where are
we
you at?
didn't,
I thought you were in the Midwest.
we're in the middle of Illinois, and it was in the middle of cornfields, which is why I was shocked.
A blue heron.
Yeah, but there's a lot of floodplains around, and this used to be
Okay.
marshland. So
Okay.
um, they are in this area. I just didn't
Wow.
expect one to be standing in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
And so we came over this hill and it like saw us and took off, and its feet almost touched the windshield. Like it was so close. It
Oh
was such
gosh.
a transformative moment. And this idea of like the strength card, which kind of I was Monday when I pulled it, I was kind of riffing on the idea of like patience and strength and how that can really mean something to be comfortable waiting, and being still, which I know in today's society we're not necessarily comfortable with.
Yeah.
And creativity has really helped me with that.
Yeah.
And so today I was writing about how the great blue heron relates to the strength card, and I did like a little painting in my journal and shared that. And I think
Nice.
like a little, I think it was strength is in the pause just as much as the action.
I like that. So let me ask you this: with the reflection on the tarot card, are is it just know whatever one that you're drawing, or are you going to try to reflect on every? Is there 72 cards in those decks?
I think it's 78.
Okay, so I'm sorry, 78. So it's just whatever card you pull. If you pull the same
Yeah.
card 78 times, then
No, I'm gonna keep the cards out so that because I want to, the whole purpose of it, I wanted a long-term project. I wanted to be able to reflect on each card, and because I've read tarot and I've done like oracle art readings and have done like journal prompt readings with tarot cards for people. Um, but I wanted to get to know each card on a much more intimate level. And so each part of it is, making the art and writing the reflections and seeing what shows up in daily life and connecting it to the card, seeing how I can embody it, and then, at the end of the 78 weeks, I guess, I'll have these podcast episodes and I will have this giant collection of writing and artwork
Yeah.
that the dream, I guess, is to compile it into a limited edition book.
Gotcha. I love that idea.
Yeah, I
That's
think it's like a
that's
great way to do something.
you know what? I think, and you can do something, and you could just do things. Um,
Exactly.
maybe what we could do is I'd like to, the people are willing, so many women have willing to come talk. And that would be like a great follow-up, a couple of months from now and see where you're at with that project. And maybe you could show us some visuals
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
and maybe how long does it take to get through the artist's way? I can't remember.
12 weeks.
12 weeks.
But that's the thing. It was like the second week. Last week was week 2. And I was driving and this entire project like downloaded all of a sudden. And I was like, and it can be a podcast and it can be writing and art and it can be a book and it can be this whole thing. And it's like all the things I love and want to do. And it was right there.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool. That's really cool.
So I'm following the intuition and doing the thing.
Okay. I love it. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's everything. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, the answers, the questions you answered, the answers you provided for the questions were really great. So they'll be on the blog, and your images are really cool. And I just have had a really great time following you. Sometimes you have this really great humor, and then sometimes I'm like, holy shit, that's deep. So I really appreciate that you have like a full gamut in what you're offering, and when you feel like your work just feels real, like just it's you're just throwing it all out there. And I find that one of the reasons I love Substack is finding artists like you and have used creativity to help them in certain times in their life to pivot and to switch a focus and so I'll be curious now. You got 2 kids in school, what these hours during the day might be generating creatively for you. But
It'll be interesting to see.
yeah,
Like I said, we're still very much in the transition period, but
yeah.
maybe when soccer ends, I think it'll really hit me.
Yeah, and then you'll wake up one day and then they'll be going off into their own little lives, and that's crazy. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Well, Rikki, thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
you very much. I'm going to turn off the recording right now. And for people, again, at the end of the blog, I'm going to have links to your WordPress and to your social media pages. Your YouTube is a big. I really enjoy that, and you can look on your YouTube channel to look at all these books, all these zines that you've made, all of these collage processes is great for people if they want to be um, inspired or stimulated to do some kind of collage or zine work. I think your YouTube channel is a great resource for people wanting to do that. Um, and also, I don't know, I didn't see as much crochet there, but you had lots of videos. So maybe um,
I
you're
haven't done
like,
a lot of videos about crochet, but yeah,
okay,
it's something I do like in the background now,
yeah,
more for myself, but it does
sure,
pop up a lot.
yeah. Well, thanks a lot. I really appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to the everyone else reading this interview.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.